Legions of youths were ripped from reality and dropped into a bizarre realm. A system screen blinked into existence before them. It commanded they brace for Chapter 1's trial. Only 4 minutes and 21 seconds remained before the first wave of monsters struck. Amidst the chaos, a long-haired youth was singled out by a cryptic treasure chest, materializing right in front of him. With this divine relic's power, can he survive the impending slaughter? To understand his fate, we have to look back. Rewind 24 hours to Jong Sun trapped in a surreal dimension of grinding gears and colossal clockwork machinery. A chime resonated through the void. Player Jong Sun, your time has expired. As the voice died, a girl bathed in celestial radiance appeared. She extended a glowing hand, beckoning him toward an unknown destiny. But this epic journey actually begins elsewhere. Behold, the Temple of 10,000 Demons. Within the Demon of Greed commanded legions to forge a sanctuary of pure legendary gold. Born from Hell Mountain, this temple once crowned the tower's peak before the Third Great War of Gods and Demons shattered everything. Every trace of demonic filth, including the legendary temple itself, was purged and hurled down from the tower's summit. Following their crushing defeat, the survivors hoped for a fleeting moment of tranquility. Instead, a mysterious outsider launched a devastating assault, obliterating the realm and scattering the celestial constellations like dust. Wielding might that dwarfed the gods, these invaders systematically executed every player who had been stripped of their power. With every player erased, the tower stands on the brink of extinction. Now, the weight of humanity's survival rests solely on Jong Sunday. Incredible, the demon temple plummeted to the 92nd floor. This miracle might be the game changer we desperately need. Mammon's treasure is hidden here. If I seize it, I can rewind time itself, Jong Sun realized as fate beckoned. He shoved the heavy doors open, triggering a sudden system alert. Player Jong Sun has breached the Temple of 10,000 Demons. Unprecedented. A mortal has infiltrated the demonic sanctuary. You have achieved a feat of historic proportions. You have trespassed into the divine domain as a mere human. Your glory is absolute, but Jong Sun ignored the spam. He exhaled sharply, finally relaxing his tense shoulders. I'm actually here, so this is the infamous den of demons. His eyes sharpened as he scanned the horizon. A gargantuan chamber shimmering with the blinding luster of gold stretched before him. But peace was short-lived. The treasury shook with violent tremors and ominous cracks, spiderwebbed across the ceiling. Panic surged through him. Is that the target I have got to move? He muttered, his face twisting in a grimace. He instantly triggered his ultimate skill, Journey's Milestone, the absolute pinnacle of high-tier exploration and pathfinding abilities. Combined with Heroic Leap, this was his lifeline. Without it, finding this temple or even surviving this long would have been impossible. Guide me to the gold, he whispered. Suddenly, a golden needle spun wildly before locking onto a direction. He sprinted in pursuit. A wall. Why is it pointing there? Jong Sun wondered, confused by the needle's weird trajectory. It indicated a dusty candle sconce. With zero time to waste, our protagonist lunged forward and gripped the cold metal. He yanked it down hard. Instantly, the stone wall groaned and slid open, unveiling a hidden corridor into the dark. Descending the stairs, he eventually stood before a colossal, gilded gateway. Staring at the massive door, he breathed a quiet thought. This is it, Mammon's vault. I cannot believe I actually owe that jerk Felix a thanks. The thought still irritates me. Recalling that betrayal makes my blood boil. As the anger flared, sharp flashes of memory flooded his mind. A shady man in monk's robes tossed a rusted key at Jong Sun's feet, treating him like a common beggar. Take it. Take this as your fee. This key, well, it is not like I have got any actual cash for you anyway. Jong Sun was not having it and immediately fired back. This is a total breach of our agreement. Stop scamming me, or I am out. But Felix and his goons just erupted into mocking, arrogant laughter at his threats. They did not give a damn. Tear up that contract, and we will make sure you never find work as an adventurer again. Those bastards. At the time, I had zero clue about the key's value and simply took it as my hard-earned payment. He gave a dry laugh before sliding the key into the mechanism. Simultaneously, a system prompt flickered to life. Hidden property of the artifact unlocked Mammon's golden key, a divine tool granting passage into the Vault of Greed. Welcome to the Treasury of Greed. As the seals broke, an ocean of unimaginable riches flooded Jong Sun's vision. Mountains of gold and silver stretched into the distance. Advancing further, he spotted legendary relics stacked like common trash. The Cursed Blade, Tearfing, an elite heavenly demon manual, and even a 10th Circle ancient magic grimoire, all just sitting there. No way. A literal dragon's heart. How did anyone gather this much insane loot? Jong Sun's mind was absolutely reeling. The ground shook violently, urging him to move faster. It looks like the exit is already sealing shut. Time's running out. Take me to the prize, Jong Sun barked at the spinning compass needle. It pulsed with light. Guided by fate, he bolted toward a massive mountain of shimmering gold. No way. Is this it? He lunged into the sea of coins, digging frantically through the riches. His fingers brushed cold glass. He yanked it out the hourglass. He finally found it. The Hourglass of Kronos, a divine relic forged by the legendary god of time himself. It held the power to rewind one's own history, the very thing Jung Sun was hunting for, the ultimate reset button. But this god-tier item came with a massive, dangerous catch. Only the user's personal clock would reset. If I go back, if I stop the war between gods and demons, and scale the tower myself, I can prevent the total collapse. Action followed thought. He flipped the glass and a blinding divine radiance erupted instantly. Lightning arced through the air, the relic activated, tearing through the tower's very timeline. The countdown began. 9 minutes and 58 seconds remain until the last grain of sand falls. I'll do whatever it takes to rewrite this nightmare, Jung Sun swore, his heart pounding. Boom! A thunderous explosion rocked the chamber, and the ceiling began to crumble above him. A mass of eye-covered tentacles tore through the stone, lunging straight for Jung Sun's throat. He rolled just in time. Gasping, he finally got a clear look at his grotesque attacker. It was pure nightmare fuel, a writhing knot of snakes sprouting thousands of blinking wet eyes. Catching his scent, the serpents struck simultaneously, their maws wide and hungry for his flesh. He scrambled back, desperate for an edge. Luckily, this wasn't just any regular treasure pile. This was an armory of the gods, overflowing with legendary divine weapons and ancient steel. His eyes sparked. He snatched a nearby spear, Astrope Zeus's very own bolt of lightning. Can't take it with me, so I might as well enjoy the fireworks, he grinned. He gripped the shaft, muscles tensing, and launched it at the encroaching mass of snakes. Lightning exploded on contact. The grotesque beast shrieked, twitching under the high-voltage divine shock. Roaring in agony, it lashed out. A heavy tentacle slammed into him, sending him flying backward. Tougher than he looks, he groaned. Nearby, a massive broadsword erupted in ferocious, hellish flames. Livatine, the blade of destruction. With these god-tier toys, even an outsider would bleed out. The legendary sword of Surtur, a weapon built to reduce the entire world to ash. He seized the hilt and charged a blur of speed, heading straight for the massive monster. Weaving through the snapping maws, he closed the gap and swung with everything he had. The impact was nuclear. The explosion stripped away the creature's disguise, revealing its true form. So that's what's underneath, he thought. The smoke cleared to show the real, hideous beast. A hairless, mutated boar with writhing tentacles. A pig. You have got to be kidding me. He needed a finisher. Scouring the gold again, his eyes locked onto a legendary glowing pike. Bryonak, the Spear of Light. Lug's ultimate weapon, capable of piercing through any defense imaginable. Try tanking this, he roared, unleashing a divine throw that practically broke the sound barrier. The spear became a streak of light, skewering the boar clean from snout to tail. Before the beast could even squeal, it was vaporized by the overwhelming divine equipment power. A system alert flashed. You are the first player to slay an outsider, achievement unlocked. The hourglass hummed. Suddenly, the treasury of greed began to groan and collapse around him. Holding the golden key, the system recognized Jung Sun as the new sovereign of greed. The old power was gone. The essence of greed chose its new master, Jung Sunday. Causality inverted. His levels, stats, and hard-earned skills began to evaporate into the void. Tower progress reset. Suddenly, the cave vanished, replaced by a lush, mysterious green forest. A crowd was already forming nearby. Strangely, everyone looked completely lost and confused. I had no clue why I was here. One moment I was at the office, the next this. Panic started rippling through the confused crowd. Suddenly, a holographic interface flickered to life before our stunned eyes. Welcome to the tutorial. The group fell into a daze, scratching their heads. A tutorial? Is this some kind of twisted game? Amidst the growing hysteria, one young man stood perfectly still, his cold gaze scanning the perimeter. This was our protagonist, Yong Sehun. Staring at the hauntingly familiar landscape, he realized the impossible truth. Did I actually regress to the past? What is this tutorial nonsense? Someone explain this. How are we supposed to survive? We're all in the same boat here, someone barked back. But Sehun, he'd already endured this nightmare once before. He felt zero shock. The chaos was identical to last time. I need to distance myself from these ticking time bombs. Sehun drifted toward the edge of the crowd, lost in thought. But right then, fate intervened. A frantic hand gripped his arm. Do you know what's happening? Why am I trapped in this hellhole? Sehun turned and met a face he remembered all too well. This guy. In the original timeline, he was slaughtered like an animal, throat ripped wide open. Pushing the grim memory aside, Sehun spoke with forced calm. Just stay cool. How we were kidnapped without warning. Is this some sick prank show or what? As the man spiraled into theories, Sehun found his own attempts at comfort almost laughable. Words are useless right now. Nobody listens until the blood starts spilling. Once the monsters arrive, they'll shut up. Right on cue, a fresh system notification pinged in the air. Tutorial, Chapter 1, Adaptation. First monster wave approaching in 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Terror gripped the crowd like a physical weight. A monster wave. What the hell? While the mob panicked, Sehun stayed laser-focused. He pulled up his stats. Everything mirrored the past. Almost. This was the current state of Yong Se-hun. Name Yong Se-hun, Level 1, Title None, Strength 7, Agility 9, Stamina 8, Intellect 12. Other stats 0. Unique skills, Power of Greed, and Power of Gluttony. Se-hun's brow furrowed. In my previous life, I didn't realize how pathetic these starting stats actually were. Forget the numbers. What are these new skills? He centered his focus on the Unique Abilities tab. Possessing 2 unique powers was unheard of. Then memories of the final system alerts before his regression flooded back. Those messages weren't a hallucination. That means I can actually wield that forbidden power right now. Without a second thought, Se-hun focused his mind. In an instant, a miniature gilded treasure chest materialized. It levitated in his palm. Greed's treasure has been opened. Reward, Breath of the Red Dragon. Next up, Mjolnir, the legendary hammer of Thor. And the forbidden heavenly demon control art. The ultimate secret technique of the demonic cult. With an arsenal like this from day one, an overwhelming surge of confidence washed over Se-hun. With these mythic powers in my grasp, I'll finally have the strength to crush those otherworldly invaders. Just as the thought crossed his mind, the countdown hit 0. A blood-red notification flared. Adaptation phase starting. The first monster wave begins now. Prove your worth or die. The crowd erupted in madness. It's starting. What do we do? Hysteria peaked as a pack of shadow wolves prowled out from the tree line, eyes glowing with hunger. Wolves, that's the wave. Sensing their prey's crippling fear, the beast's bloodlust reached a fever pitch. They lunged a snarling blur of fur and fangs. There's way too many of them. This is a slaughter. The group scrambled in a desperate retreat, but they hadn't fled 5 steps before their path vanished. A second pack emerged from the shadows, sealing them in a deadly pincer formation. Trapped. No exit. Faces drained of all color as the reality of their impending doom set in. Are we really going to die here? If you want to keep breathing, pick up a weapon, Se-hun commanded icily. All eyes snapped to him. A salaryman lunged forward, seizing Se-hun's collar in a frantic, trembling grip. Are you insane? How are we supposed to fight those beasts barehanded? Do you have a death wish? You sound like you actually have a strategy, a burly man named Kang Han Cheol interjected solemnly. Se-hun adjusted his collar with chilling composure, giving a slight confident nod to the giant. Simple. I'll handle the heavy lifting. You guys just focus on defense. Got it, Han Cheol stared back. He questioned if taking on that savage pack single-handedly was even possible. Oblivious to those doubts, Jong-soo locked in. Time to unleash this new strength. Summoning the Treasury of Greed, he pulled out a legendary manual, the Ten-set Tan Tui. It is a fundamental Shaolin technique centered on devastating kicks. Manual in hand, Jong-soo activated the skill instantly. No time to waste. The lead wolf lunged jaws, snapping, hungry for a piece of our hero. Rejecting the beast's advances, Jong-soo pivoted and unleashed the Tan Tui's first form. His boot slammed into the wolf's ribs, sending the creature screaming through the air. The pack froze, watching their comrade tumble before erupting into a bloodthirsty chorus. They swarmed him. But Jong-soo didn't flinch. He charged headfirst into the chaos. Leaping high, he executed a violent mid-air spin, driving his heel downward. The earth shattered. A massive shockwave blasted the remaining wolves back into the dirt. From the sidelines, the terrified civilians watched in awe. This felt like a superhero movie. Who is this guy? Taking down monsters with his bare hands is insane. Han Cheol finally realized the source of Jong-soo's absolute confidence. The man was a beast. He's crazy strong. There's no way he's fighting this whole pack without a hidden trump card. Watching him fight unarmed, it's sparking something fierce deep inside my own soul. It is not panic, it is something else. My focus is slipping, Han Cheol hissed. He parried a wolf's bite, then grabbed its skull and slammed it into the pavement. The impact left a massive crater. Man, he just wrecked that thing with 0 weapons. The crowd gasped, but as their eyes met, a spark of defiance began to ignite. With strength like that, we might survive this. We still have the numbers. Quick, grab anything. We need weapons now. The survivors rallied together. Han Cheol kept his eyes glued to Jong-soo's movements. His form was perfect. He lacks brute force, but his precision is terrifying. His style is totally different from mine. I need to fight beside him. Meanwhile, Jong-soo stood amidst the pile of defeated beasts. The pack lay broken on the ground, but Jong-soo was gasping for air. It is almost over. My current body is way too frail. Am I reaching my limit already? Suddenly, the hair on his neck stood up. A heavy gaze was pinned on him. An overwhelming presence filled the air, and then the system interface flickered into existence. The Crow constellation is observing you. A constellation, the Crow. That is Mammon, the true master of the treasury. The god of greed is watching. Did he catch me? If he realizes I am looting his vault without a permit, I am dead. Should I hide? Theft from a deity usually ends in a one-way trip to hell. I fought so hard to reincarnate. Is it all going to end because of this? Jong-soo panicked. And just as he feared, the greedy deity began to connect the dots. System alert. The Crow constellation has detected traces of distorted causality. The Crow nods, recognizing the hourglass's presence. The constellation is smiling. The suffocating pressure vanished instantly, leaving Jiangsu drenched in sweat but alive. But the anxiety remained. He knows I used the hourglass, yet he is doing nothing. Did he see this coming? It feels like he is giving me a free pass for now. If that is the case, let us keep going. Time for the next power test. Like a kid with a dangerous new toy, Jiangsu reached out his hand toward the carnage. Power of gluttony, he roared, but the air stayed still. The conditions were not met. System target must be designated. He looked at the wolf corpses, wondering if this would work. One way to find out. Whispering a dark command, he unleashed the ravenous hunger of gluttony upon the wolf pack. Suddenly the air turned cold, as abyssal shadows erupted from his limb, twisting like venomous vipers. These obsidian serpents lunged forward, sinking their fangs deep and shredding the beast with blinding ferocity. Within seconds, every shard of bone was devoured, dragged into the void, and reclaimed by their master. Zhang Xiol recoiled, his heart racing at the grotesque display. What kind of nightmare did I just summon? It left absolutely nothing behind. Ignoring his shock, the darkness finished consuming the predator's remains entirely. A holographic alert flashed, prey consumed. Nutrients assimilated. Strength attribute has risen by 1 point. Agility up by 2. His jaw dropped as the shadowy entities let out a satisfied, eerie burp. This is insane. Scavenging corpses actually boosts my stats. If I can master this ability, I will become an unstoppable beast. But just as he smirked, a chilling realization hit him. Hold on. If Mammon was greed, then this power must belong to Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies. I got careless in the heat of the moment. Before he could process the danger, a powerful gaze locked onto him. The Starving Prince constellation has focused its attention on you. The entity pauses, its eternal feast appearing intrigued. Cold sweat poured down Zhang Xiol's terrified face. This isn't like before. I escaped Mammon through luck, but Beelzebub is a true titan of hell. Fate won't save me twice. Anxiety gnawed at him until another system prompt flickered to life. The Starving Prince begins to speak, but changes his mind to cram even more flesh down. Zhang Xiol stared, completely baffled. One of the most feared beings in existence is actually losing its mind over a snack. Is his hunger truly bottomless? This might be the opening I need. If he wants a feast, I'll give him a banquet. Channeling the gluttony skill once more, he charged the survivors, devouring the pack to satisfy the demon's insatiable, frantic delight. The Starving Prince roars with joy at the sudden buffet. Seeing the demon's ecstatic reaction, Zhang Xiol sighed in relief. Crisis averted. Success. Strength has increased by 0.1. Agility up by 0.5. The gains are diminishing, but stat grinding isn't the priority. He kept his focus sharp, glancing toward the heavens to address the cosmic entity directly. Still hungry, aren't you? He challenged. The response from the abyss was immediate. Drooling with anticipation, the prince claims that was merely a snack. A sly grin crossed Zhang Xiol's face. Classic gluttony. That concludes our little session, or should I say our first successful deal. The clock ticked forward, thanks to the sheer carnage, and Zhang Xiol's defensive wall. The wolf pack was crippled, allowing the group to mop up the remaining stragglers easily. Victory is ours, the survivors shouted, as another system announcement echoed in their minds. Tutorial Chapter 1, Adaptation. Wave 1 cleared. All survivors will now receive their rewards. 50 points awarded. Surveying the area, Zhang Xiol noted that everyone had managed to survive. Not a single drop of blood from the allies. This is a massive change from the original timeline. Did my overwhelming kill count rewrite history? It seems I've already shifted the balance of power. Suddenly, the system processed the battle data, unveiling the contribution rankings for all to see. Rank 1, Zhang Xiol with 220 points. Rank 2, Kang Han Chol at 80. Rank 3, Josiah with 40. Zhang Xiol pondered the results with a satisfied expression. A solid lead. In this game, your rank determines the legendary loot you'll eventually unlock. Better scores mean better sponsors. Constellations only watch the brightest stars in the arena. First place is non-negotiable. But even with this win, my lack of gear is glaring. My base stats are still trash compared to elite hunters. Raw power has its limits. I require a weapon to bridge this gap. However, finding quality steel is the challenge. This area is a wasteland for gear. I'll have to grind levels in the deep woods. I need artifacts. Once my level rises, higher tier equipment will finally be within my reach. Driven by the riches of Mammon's vault, Yongsun wasted no time and sprinted toward the looming forest ahead. However, right at that moment, a sharp female voice cut through the air. Hey, hold on. Where do you think you're going all by yourself? Yongsun froze for a second before turning toward the source. That voice. It sounded incredibly familiar, striking a chord in his memory. Wait, could it really be her? He wondered. Before his regression, she was a legend known as the Tornado. He didn't remember every face from his past life, but Josiah was impossible to forget. She was a future superstar of the tower's upper floors. Alongside Kang Han-chol, she was destined to become one of the absolute top-tier rankers, Young-sun recalled. Meanwhile, Josiah rushed over to him, her face full of concern. "Why are you wandering off alone? Don't be so reckless. Once the tutorial begins, every single second is worth its weight in gold. I don't have the patience or the energy to babysit people right now." Young-sun groaned inwardly. When Josiah realized he was ignoring her, she snapped again. "Hey, are you even listening to me?" Snapping back to reality, Young-sun gave a cold shrug. "I'm just scouting the perimeter. Sitting around here like a duck won't save us." Josiah shook her head, trying to talk some sense into him. "Instead of acting like a lone wolf, we should group up and strategize for the next monster wave. Why don't we just join the others and talk it out? And will having a little chat session actually change our fate?" Young-sun asked with a skeptical look. "Of course it will. At the very least, it'll keep people from spiraling into a panic," Josiah argued. But Young-sun was already completely over it. "I don't have time for this nonsense. It's not like I can explain the future to her," he thought, letting out a heavy sigh. "And how exactly will less anxiety help when the second wave hits? We'll all just end up running for our lives again anyway. Even so, we have no clue when those wolves will strike. Going out there solo is a death wish," Josiah screamed. But right then, the system provided the answer as a glowing notification flashed before everyone's eyes. Tutorial, Chapter 1. Adaptation. Time remaining until the second monster wave, 2 hours and 57 minutes. Young-sun began to mumble, quickly doing the math in his head. 3 hours, that's all the time I've got left. He wasn't about to waste another second, so he turned to leave. He threw one last instruction over his shoulder to the girl. "Go back. From here on out, you'd be better off keeping your eyes glued to the system alerts. You've got nothing better to do while you wait anyway. Join your little meeting or whatever." With that, Young-sun vanished into the trees. Josiah was left standing there, her eyes wide with total disbelief. "Wait, what just happened?" she muttered, completely stunned. "Actually, you should use that time to find a sturdy branch or something," Young-sun added. The cryptic advice left Josiah totally baffled. Oblivious to her shock, Young-sun moved deep into the woods and began a systematic slaughter of an entire wolf pack. They were crawling all over the brush just inside the forest. There were so many of them that even our hero was a bit taken aback. "Why are there so many? Well, this is the perfect chance to grind my stats." Grinning Young-sun activated the power of gluttony. He began absorbing the wolves, using their essence to skyrocket his power. However, even a god-tier skill has its limits. A system message popped up. "You have devoured a brown wolf. Nutrients can no longer be extracted from the same species. The Starving Prince constellation is officially bored of this meat." Still gnawing on a wolf bone, Young-sun saw the alert and could only sigh. Done already. He really is the demon of greed. Talk about a picky eater. "This wolf meat clearly isn't high-quality monster material," he muttered. "Just hold on a second. I'll find you a gourmet meal soon, all right? Just give me a moment." Young-sun nodded, which caught the Starving Prince's attention. The constellation inhaled the entire ribcage, his eyes glowing with hunger. To please that glutton, Young-sun had to keep moving and find a new target. "Or maybe I should experiment a bit," he mused, opening the treasury of greed. From the golden rift, he pulled out a shimmering, ethereal blade. This was Gram, the legendary sword of the Chosen One, the very weapon Sigurd used to slay the dragon Fafnir. In this realm, these treasures could only be manifested as intangible energy. Their physical forms were gone, leaving only their raw power behind. It should have been mine. What a total waste. But it can't be helped. If I can channel this divine power into a decent vessel, I'll practically have a legendary sword. Young-sun focused his mind, projecting the lethal shadow of Gram onto a simple piece of wood in his hand. But life is never that simple. The moment the legendary energy began to fuse with the wood, the branch disintegrated into ash, instantly shattering his hopes for an easy gear upgrade. Young-sun's dream of a god-tier item vanished in a heartbeat. Damn it. The vessel couldn't handle the output of a legend. This meant the power didn't just wreck objects, it was a danger to his own body too. I need to adapt and fast. My current cultivation is trash. If I dared to use a high-tier skill like Fire Dragon's Breath, I'd literally incinerate into ash. My body would crumble like a dry twig. Plus this greed ability. It's a VIP-only power strictly exclusive to me. I tested if others could tap into this energy using some junk on a wolf, but it was a total bust. Bottom line, my current arsenal is looking pretty pathetic, and my options are running thin. I've got to grind and buff my stats until I can actually wield the legendary gear. No shortcuts here. Priority 1, find a decent blade. Jang Seol pushed deeper into the woods, but finding elite loot is never a walk in the park. Not even for our main character. Despite scouring this massive forest, he was coming up empty-handed. Man, I'd kill for a guide right now. Finding treasures used to be a breeze, now it's just a massive headache. But maybe it's time to play a wild card. Jang Seol reached into the treasury of greed and pulled out a special relic. The hyena snout, a low-rank monster item. It's basically a cheat code for tracking prey using a god-tier sense of smell. System alert. The snout has synchronized. A ghostly hyena silhouette merged with Zhang Xiol instantly, granting him an inhumanly keen nose. With these upgraded senses, Zhang Xiol finally caught the scent he was hunting for. Found it. The sharp metallic tang of rust was thick in the air. He didn't waste a second and bolted toward the source. Meanwhile, the greedy king was having a literal meltdown from hunger and started spamming alerts. The starving prince constellation began whining like a toddler, complaining his stomach was practically touching his spine. With his patron on the verge of starving, Zhang Xiol shifted into high gear. This feels less like a pact and more like raising a pig, he grumbled to himself. But then a serious complication slammed into his plans. The target was way further than he estimated. He was sprinting full tilt, yet the distance barely seemed to close. My lungs are burning, but the scent is definitely coming from this way. Just as he thought that, Zhang Xiol's expression went stone cold. A foul, unfamiliar odor suddenly cut through the air. Wait, this isn't rust. It's a gray wolf. Zhang Xiol's heart skipped as he realized. A massive predator had silently stalked him from the shadows. The beast had him pinned from the very start. It tracked me just like I tracked the treasure. In my past life, I spent all my time running. This time, the ending changes. Zhang Xiol stood his ground, internal energy surging through his veins like a storm. Across the clearing, the gray wolf's patience finally snapped. Its hunger was visible in its glowing, murderous eyes. Seeing that Zhang Xiol wasn't flinching or fleeing, the beast lunged, its jaws aimed straight for his leg. But our boy is a veteran. Using his combat instincts, he pivoted just in time to dodge the lethal snap. One exchange was all it took to realize this wasn't some weak brown wolf. This thing was faster, bigger, and deadlier. This is a natural-born killer. It's aiming for the jugular to end me in a single bloody second. Thank God for the 10-step retreat. Without that technique, I'd be a pile of shredded meat right now. He cursed inwardly. The wolf didn't miss a beat, launching another savage assault before Zhang Xiol could even breathe, giving him zero recovery time. Unfortunately for the beast, Zhang Xiol's mental reflexes were still elite. He danced around the attack again, finding a tiny opening to deliver a heavy counterkick. He expected the wolf to go flying, but it didn't even budge. Instead, a wave of recoil slammed back into him. Zhang Xiol scrambled back to reset his distance, his heart hammering against his ribs. His right leg was vibrating uncontrollably from the impact. Are my stats really this trash? I landed a clean hit. Damn it, how is it this tanky? He gritted his teeth, barely dodging another snap of those jaws. I've got the speed, but my raw power isn't enough to pierce this monster's defense. This is getting bad. What's the move? The odds are stacking against me. As he searched for an opening, Zhang Xiol's eyes grew desperate. Then things went from bad to worse. A pack of brown wolves charged in to flank him. Seriously, you bottom feeders are still here. If I don't find a way out now, I'm wolf bait. Zhang Xiol backed away slowly, looking for an exit. But fate wasn't done with him yet. Right in that moment, as if the heavens heard his plea, a miracle appeared in the dirt. A rusty sword was embedded in the ground waiting for a master. It looked like ancient junk, but the edge carried a deadly cold gleam. Zhang Xiol lunged for the hilt and unleashed a desperate strike, cleaving that charging brown wolf clean in two, just as expected. This blade is easily the ultimate find for this early stage. Still, Zhang Sehun couldn't help but wonder if this weapon hid a deeper, more lethal secret. Even the constellation Fuo eyed the blade with a cryptic look. Ignoring the celestial gaze, our hero pressed on. Sehun continued his relentless assault. With this legendary steel in hand, the momentum was his. There was no turning back now. Ending this before its next strike, he vowed. Witnessing Sehun's explosive surge in power, the gray wolf froze in its tracks. It glared with predatory caution, no longer daring to rush in like a mindless beast. Seizing the opening, Sehun accessed his treasure of greed. He instantly selected a rare skill book, the prestigious Hamel family swordsmanship technique. This was their ultimate secret, an elite blade style, reserved strictly for the family's true bloodline heirs. Upon activation, a spectral aura wrapped around him as the knowledge fused with his soul. The game has changed, he whispered. The wolf unleashed a bone-chilling howl, psyching itself up for one final desperate charge. But Sehun stood his ground. As the beast lunged, he tightened his grip and drove the steel directly into its snarling maw. The alpha's jagged teeth clamped onto the weathered blade, forcing a brutal high-stakes deadlock between man and monster. Exactly as planned. Channeling raw power into his forearms, Sehun violently ripped the sword free from the wolf's bloody jaws. He unleashed a storm of steel. Before the beast could blink, countless slashes carved through its thick hide. The massive predator was completely overwhelmed. Checkmate, Sehun mused as the gray wolf took the full brunt of his fury. The alpha never even touched him. Instead, it was reduced to a mangled mess shredded by a barrage of strikes. Though drenched in its own gore, the beast's killing intent remained. But the damage was clearly taking its toll. No surprise there, this style built an empire from the shadows. Ordinary, not even close. Finish line, Sehun thought, blitzing forward. The wolf snapped its jaws in a final act of defiance, unaware that it had just sealed its own fate. Sehun simply raised his blade with cold, surgical precision and plunged it deep into the creature's throat. The wolf shrieked in agony, desperately trying to dislodge the cold steel. Game over. The light faded from its eyes as the boss slumped over, dying under Sehun's stone-cold smirk. Right on cue, the system chimed with a glorious alert. You have vanquished the Wolf Forest boss. Graveguarding Wolf defeated. Level up. Gained 500 merit points and the rare Grey Wolf skin. But Sehun wasn't just here for the kill. He had a calculated secondary objective for this forest raid. Farming merit points was the priority. You can earn them through combat heroics, like surviving the tutorial waves. Alternatively, hunting down elite solo monsters works too. But then there's the most controversial method, slaying other players. As the tutorial reaches its climax, the peace will shatter, and a bloody free-for-all will erupt. PvP is the ultimate shortcut to the top. Sehun plotted, his eyes gleaming with ambition. Activating gluttony, he devoured the carcass. Raw boss nutrients flowed through his veins, fueling his evolution. Graveguarding Wolf consumed, stats increased 3 strength, 5 agility, and 2 stamina gained. Sehun kept a poker face, but internally, he was vibrating with excitement at the massive stat boost. Boss kills are the ultimate cheat code. Even the starving prince seemed satisfied with this feast. The system confirmed it. Beelzebub himself was impressed. Now for the real prizes. Time to inspect the loot, he muttered quickly, sifting through his new spoils of war. Let's check the specs. First up, the Sword of a Forgotten Hero. Type Longsword, rank D. A relic of a lost legend weathered by the ages. Unique ability Poison. It cripples enemy regeneration. Plus, Hero's Trace grants a 10% damage buff against all monsters. Grey Wolf Skin. Type Cloak, rank D. The pelt of the alpha that once dominated these woods. Its predatory aura remains intact. Special ability Authority. This skill buffs allies while terrifying enemies. Blessing of the Wind also boosts movement speed by 5%. Sehun grinned. With potential like this, I can definitely refine these into rank D plus gear. Even Beelzebub, watching from the heavens, appeared to give this blade his dark seal of approval. The starving prince gave it a lukewarm glance, admitting it wasn't total garbage. High praise from him. Classic, greedy demon vibes. With the loot secured, Sehun wondered how long until the next wave hits. Am I running out of time? The thought raced through his mind as he clocked the countdown for the second assault. Barely 12 minutes remained. Jongseon gritted his teeth and forced his pace to quicken. Gotta regroup before the real chaos breaks out. Tutorial Chapter 1. Adaptation. The second monster wave is commencing. Repel the horde and prove your survival instincts. While the system notification blared, Jongseon was casually strolling through the dense shadows of the forest. The slaughter started right as I arrived. He'd promised Joseph he'd return, but time was slipping away. Honestly, he didn't really care. This was the perfect moment to scout for any useless dead weight. Identifying the freeloaders early was key. Our protagonist calmly began his walk back toward the trembling group. This wave brought a stampede of savage wild boars. What are you doing? Stand your ground, cowards? First wolves, now these tusk demons. And so it begins, Jongseon whispered to himself. Across the blood-soaked battlefield, a loud-mouthed bald man screamed, "Don't just dodge, tank the hits." The coward was actually cowering behind a terrified youth, using him as a living shield. The blonde-haired young man's hands shook so violently he couldn't even keep his staff steady. I'm trying, he stammered. Before he could finish, the bald man's heavy boot connected with his spine. He kicked the boy directly into the fray. If you want to keep your life, start fighting like you mean it. The old man barked threats, completely oblivious to his own hypocrisy. Nearby, Jongseon activated his stalking bush skill. Lurking in the shadows, he witnessed the pathetic display. It didn't surprise him in the slightest. Weaklings like that are everywhere. I'm struggling to survive, but how are the others holding up? He scanned the area. Small groups were actually coordinating, teaming up to isolate and butcher the boars. They were handling the pressure better than expected, especially Ju So-ah and Kang Han Cheol. Even with bottom-tier gear, their potential was undeniable. All right, time for my grand entrance. Gripping his blade, Jongseon stood tall, stepping onto the stage like a true main character. Meanwhile, Ju So-ah was reaching her limit as the relentless combat drained her stamina. Her breath came in ragged, burning gasps. If she lost focus for even a second, she was dead. These monsters were leagues above the wolves. Suddenly, a massive wild boar locked its sights on her. With a blood-curdling roar, it lunged. She barely managed to roll aside, her heart hammering against her ribs. "They just keep coming," she hissed, only to realize blood was soaking through 2 fresh wounds on her thigh. When did I get hit? Fear began to cloud her judgment as her vision blurred with exhaustion. Her expression twisted with dread. Before she could reset her stance, the boar pivoted for another lethal charge. With no other options, Ju So-ah grabbed a nearby club, bracing for the inevitable impact. "Just a little longer. I just need to hold out for 1 more minute," she prayed. But the beast never reached her. A cold blade whistled through the air, striking from the shadows. The monster was instantly cleaved in two. The one who delivered the blow, none other than Jongseon. Ju So-ah looked like she wanted to cry out in relief, but Jongseon silenced her with a sharp look. Focus on the threats in front of us, he commanded, pointing his bloodied sword toward the next wave. Three boars coordinated a pack attack and charged. Jongseon quickly reached into his hoard of greed. He pulled out a high-grade orc tendon, a relic famous for its legendary strength and endurance. The item pulsed with a resilient life force, fusing its monstrous energy directly into his own body. Let's see if my frame can handle this surge. The power coursing through him was intoxicating. The fastest boar closed the gap, but Jongseon vanished, leaping high into the air. He soared 10 meters up before crashing down his blade, aimed with devastating momentum. The steel buried itself deep, silencing the boar's scream forever. He didn't stop there. With a blur of motion, he danced through the remaining monsters, ending them all in mere seconds. Ju So-ah and Kang Han-chol stood frozen in utter shock. Even Jongseon was taken aback. Was that the power of the orc tendon? His strength was immense, yet perfectly controlled. He nodded, satisfied. Seeing Jongseon's insane combat skills, the man sidled up with a greasy smile and a pat on the shoulder. Man, you're a total beast. You're leagues above these other useless losers. How about it? Want to be my personal bodyguard? I'm the CEO of Togen Corporation, surely you've heard the name. Get me out of here and I'll make you filthy rich. Just name your price. Across from him, Jongseon remained stone-faced, completely unfazed by the tycoon's bragging. Panic flared, causing the old man's bald head to glisten with sweat. He scrambled to sweeten the deal. Look, I'll even give you a department head position. That's a far better gig than any other top-tier firm would ever offer. Finally, Jongseon's eyes flickered with interest. Now that sounds like a solid trade, he murmured, his voice laced with a hint of curiosity. That single spark was enough to make the bald man beam with triumph. Haha, I knew you had a head for business. Just keep me safe and your future is golden. But before he could even finish his pitch, Jongseon cut him off. The words that followed left the man frozen in total confusion. Actually, I was just looking for a meat shield. A meat shield. What did you just say? He stammered in a panic. Without a word of explanation, Jongseon wound up and launched a brutal kick. The man spiraled through the air, a pathetic end for a fool who couldn't read the room. Yet, incredibly, another guy tried to threaten him. What the hell are you doing, you psycho? Have you lost your mind? Jongseon just smirked. Since you're so tough, why don't you handle those four yourself? He chuckled darkly. Took you long enough to realize the situation. The realization of his doom finally hit the fat man, but unfortunately for him, the clock had already run out. In an instant, 4 massive wild boars swarmed him, tossing the old man around like a literal ragdoll. Nearby, the rest of the survivors watched the cold-blooded display in stunned, terrified silence. High above, the constellation mistress of the abyss watched the chaos with a wicked, amused grin. Meanwhile, the famished prince whined incessantly, demanding more prey. Jongseon ignored the divine noise. Eventually, through desperate teamwork, the group managed to slaughter the remaining boars. First tutorial chapter cleared. Wave 2 of the attack is complete. All participants gain 50 points. Calculating individual impact now. First place Jongseon, 1,080 points. Second place Kang Han-chol, 180 points. Third place Ju So-ah, 100 points. You've consumed a brown wild boar, absorbing its essence now. Strength has increased by 1 point and stamina by 2 points. The constellation. Famished prince began devouring the remains with pure gluttony. Ignoring that starving demon, Jongseon eyed the carcasses. Time to prep. I'll save one for the road. Before my regression, predator meat was the only thing worth eating. The rust on this blade is a mess, but I can't be picky right now. As he focused on the task, he began using his sword to butcher the beast. Suddenly, a girl stepped forward, offering to help. Excuse me, I used to run a restaurant, so I'm actually pretty handy with a blade. A professional chef. That would definitely save him the trouble. Jongseon nodded, handing over the sword. Her face lit up with excitement. Leave it to me. Seeing her, others finally shook off their fear and stepped up. I'll hunt for firewood. I'll handle the campsite. We need to find a water source. They finally started acting like a team, until one guy realized a major flaw. Wait, how do we actually start the fire? Oh man, I totally forgot about that, the blonde guy admitted sheepishly. In this situation, making fire was no easy feat. Seeing no other choice, Jongseon intervened. He pulled out a rare item called Chasa's Ember. This was a fragment of a low-level fire spirit. It was tiny, but packed with supernatural energy. The fire's on me, Jongseon said, a flickering spirit flame dancing atop his palm. With the flames provided, everyone gathered to roast the boar. Soon, a mouth-watering aroma filled the air. It was enough to drive even a greedy god crazy. The famished prince began licking his lips in anticipation. Seeing the divine entity literally begging for scraps made Jongseon feel a bit awkward. I've got to eat too, man. With that, he dug in, completely ghosting the starving constellation. Just then, Ju So-ah approached with some water. Here, stay hydrated. She sat beside him. Her gaze fell on his battered weapon. Find that in the forest, Jong-sun just gave a short nod. Yeah, just a bit of luck. But he noticed the longing in her eyes as she stared at the crude club in her hands. She's definitely envious, he thought. He remembered that before her awakening, she was a dedicated sword practitioner. Jong-sun knew that flimsy wooden stick would never unleash her true potential, so he decided to speak up. Check the system window floating right next to you, he urged. Only then did Jo Seo notice the glowing notification. 100 points, she whispered, eyes widening. Wait, I can actually buy a real blade with this. Jong-sun offered a mysterious smirk, leaving her stunned. How is that even possible? She gasped. Just focus on your score, he replied. The shop menu will manifest. Intrigued, Seo followed his lead, feeling like she'd stepped right into a video game. It's just like I told you to survive this hell. You need to master the system as fast as possible. It didn't take long for Seo to pick out her new weapon. The moment she tapped the purchase button, a gleaming longsword materialized out of thin air, making her face light up. Only a real blade could channel her raw power. This is incredible. How did you know? She beamed. But Jong-sun wasn't about to spill his secrets. I'm just a quick learner when it comes to survival, he answered coolly, keeping his cards close to his chest. I thought I was fast, but I'm still miles behind you. Jong-sundae, he blinked. Did she just use his name? Jong-sun was caught off guard by the sudden familiarity. The female swordsman simply flashed him a knowing grin. Thanks for showing me the ropes, she said. Don't mention it, Jong-sun replied with a shrug. I'm looking forward to our partnership, Seo added. But there was no time for small talk. The clock was ticking. And just like that, their first night in this god-forsaken wasteland finally came to a close. As the first rays of dawn broke, Seo was already moving, rousing the group. In exactly 58 minutes, the third wave of monsters would descend. Is everyone ready? She called out. The others groaned, still lost in a groggy haze. They stumbled around like zombies, still struggling to process their nightmare reality. Seeing the chaos, Seo stepped up. She began barking out sharp, decisive commands. Everyone get into the woods. Gather stones for throwing now. Provide rear support. It'll make a huge difference. The rest of you find sturdy branches for makeshift spears. Got it, the group shouted in unison, scrambling to arm themselves before the slaughter began. Watching from the sidelines, Jong-sun noted how different things were this time. Seo was changing the game. Having a central leader kept the panic at bay. Now he could finally focus on hunting down those hidden pieces. He opened the Vault of Greed and pulled out a tome titled The Blue Magic Circle. This was a legendary cultivation technique. It was a secret passed down only to the elite mages of the Blue Tower, one of the 7 great pillars of magic. A magic circle is the fundamental engine for any sorcerer, and even though this specific one was considered the weakest, among the 7 towers it offered a rock-solid foundation that could be evolved using more advanced cultivation paths later on. He'd build his base with the Blue Tower's style, then stack more powerful techniques on top of that ironclad foundation. He couldn't overlook his dantian, the core where mana would pool. But that was just the beginning of his magical journey. To master martial arts, he needed to refine his core constantly, letting his energy flow like a calm, unstoppable river. Deep in meditation, Jong-sun channeled the Blue Tower's essence he'd plucked from Mamon's legendary horde. Regulating his breath, he felt a faint flicker of energy resonating within his chest. He reached out to that inner spark. He coaxed the mana, asking it to bind with his soul. Only the energy that surrendered would settle into his heart. Drawing on the instincts of his past life, Jong-sun manipulated the raw energy with surgical precision. He flooded his heart with mana as naturally as breathing. Suddenly, a system alert flashed before his eyes. Success! You have manifested your first magic circle using the Blue Tower's secret cultivation method. With this circle, casting spells was finally within his reach. His mana rank would now dictate his speed and destructive power. Achievement unlocked. You have received 1,000 points as a special reward for your exceptional progress. Above him, the 3 sisters' constellations leaned in their celestial eyes wide with absolute shock. The Mother of Heaven gasped in awe, and even the wise Witch of the Void took notice of his meteoric rise. Being the center of divine attention didn't sit well with Jong-sundae. He didn't need these minor gods breathing down his neck. He already had Beelzebub and Mammon in his corner. Those 2 entities were on an entirely different level than these petty constellations. The primordial demons of greed and gluttony seemed a bit territorial, clearly annoyed that other gods were eyeing their prize. It looked like his 2 demonic patrons were catching feelings, terrified that some random constellation might try to poach him. The Prince of Hunger looked visibly pouted at the uninvited guests, while Beelzebub just scowled in pure irritation. He swipes a relic. Suddenly, Beelzebub ghosts all lower constellations. Jong's soul is stunned. Cutting off high-tier entities, that's insane. Hacking the system takes massive effort. Just how high level are they? The other gods must be losing their minds, he thinks. His patrons feel the relief. The starving prince loves the peace. The silent watcher keeps observing. Jong Seol pays him no mind. With the static gone, it's time to grind my mana circles. The green tower method is slow, but it definitely builds power. He feels the energy. Then a blonde jerk ruins his focus. Yo, you dead. Wake up. Only 12 minutes left on the clock. The noise is unbearable. I can't concentrate with this guy yapping. Reluctantly, he snaps out of it. But then he sees the face. His heart drops. Why is this trash standing in front of me? The kid beams. Thought you croaked, bro. You didn't move for ages. Jong-sol goes cold. What, relax? We're all in this together, right? Let's be friends, he says. But Jong-sol remembers his past life. Park Jong-pil. Absolute human garbage. A bully who preyed on everyone. He stole from the old and weak, claiming only youth matters. He's only acting nice because the world turned into a nightmare. Deep down, he's still a toxic snake who targets the vulnerable. Jong-seol stands up cold. Jong-pil keeps trying to act friendly. I just want a squad. You look lonely, he mocks. Those words sting. They bring back memories of being hunted like dogs. This rat once pushed me into the woods just for scouting. I got stronger from it, but that doesn't excuse his betrayal. You're a fast runner, right? Jong-seol asks. The bully looks lost. A heavy hand hits his shoulder. Good. You're going to be bait. Time runs out. Wave 3 hits. Everyone readies their wooden spears. Get ready, hold the line, and nobody gets hurt, people. Yu Xiaohua leads the charge against axe-wielding monkeys. Stab them. They thrust in unison, turning the beasts into bloody Swiss cheese. But these monsters have no fear. They just keep swarming forward. There's way too many A survivor screams as the line buckles. Xiaohua panics. The formation is breaking. Is there an exit? Jong-seol predicted this chaos. That's exactly why he kept Jong-pil. He summons a banana and tosses it to the coward. Begin. Jong-pil starts shaking. Wait, what? Is this for real? I'm a slow runner, I swear, he begs, but JS is done. He winds up and kicks the coward square in the butt. Go. The blonde stumbles forward. Instantly, every monkey locks onto him. Drool drips from their fangs. The entire horde turns his way. They lunge. Jong-pil sprints for his life, crying like a baby. He's faster than he looks. I thought he'd trip immediately. Jong-sol smirks. The coward screams for help, desperate and terrified. Witnessing this, Jong-seon sensed the guy was gassing out. Get over here, he barked. I'm coming, Hyung Park shrieked in desperation. Tapping into his mana, Jong-seon summoned a halo of swirling embers, forcing Park Jong-gu to dive for cover. A booming warning from the general sent Park into a total panic. Wait, what's happening, he yelped. The spell was a prize from the Treasury of Greed Fireball, the legendary signature move once wielded by Aliba. Crafted by a Red Tower prodigy, this version scales with any mana circle. Its destructive lethality depends on the user's output. As Jong-seon focused, a blazing sun of pure heat began condensing within the hollow of his palm. He launched the projectile at the surging simian horde. Seeing a meteor hurtling his way, Park Jong-gu's brain stalled. Pure terror etched across his face, but Jong-seon's aim was god-tier, sniping the very heart of the monkey swarm. The shockwave blasted Park forward, tumbling him right to Jong-seon's feet. Hyung. What kind of sorcery was that? Is this actual magic? This is cracked, Park gasped, his jaw hitting the floor along with the others. The witnesses behind him stood frozen, whispering in disbelief, as if they'd been dropped into an epic fantasy novel. Can humans even do that? Unfazed by their shock, Jong-seon watched the thinned-out monster ranks with cold indifference. He was done playing hero. The rest of this mess was on them to clean up. Hand-holding would only cripple them. If they wanted to survive this world, they had to evolve on their own. I'd only be robbed. Points aren't the only way to level up. With that in mind, he unleashed gluttony, feasting on the brown monkeys. System nutrients absorbed from the prey. Agility rose by 3. The starving prince constellation is vibing with this feast. Witnessing Sehun's god-tier power, Park Jong-pyo immediately bowed in total submission. He begged to be a lackey. Sir, I'll follow you until my dying breath. Oh, then don't disappoint me, Sehun replied with a nonchalant shrug. Since Sehun didn't refuse, Pia was stoked. Anything you need, just say the word. Count on me. Good. Go grab a snack. You'll need the cardio soon. The next wave's coming, Sehun warned. More running, Piao groaned, shifting gears. Our MC ventured deep into the forest solo, slaughtering wild boars with ease. He officially hit level 3. Sehun paused, puzzled. Normally this takes 5 whole waves. Is this my authority's true potential? He mused. Simultaneously, Ju Hui's team finished up. They finished off the monkeys. System, 3rd wave of the tutorial successfully cleared. Everyone scores 50 points. Mission complete. I thinned the herd, but still, they cleared it faster than expected. Their resolve is finally hardening. With that, he checked the leaderboard. Sehun still dominated first with 2,480 points. Ju Hui claimed second with 340, followed by Kang Hanchul at 320. They swapped ranks. Turns out even a budget weapon changes the entire game. Sehun mused, but then boom. Heavy footsteps echoed as the boar boss appeared. Sehun didn't flinch. Instead, his eyes gleamed with anticipation. Finally, you've arrived. Meet the hill-digging boar, the zone's boss. Instinctively, Sehun activated the sharpen skill. This colorless tower magic uses mana to hone a blade to its absolute limit. Let's wrap this up, Sehun said coldly. Sensing his killing intent, the beast charged. It rushed toward its doom. With one swift stroke of his magically enhanced blade, our MC sliced the boss clean in half. System Hill Digging Boar defeated. Contribution points plus 500. Loot Giant Boar Tusk. Sehun inspected the massive ivory trophy. A tusk. Unlike the wolf hide, this is just a raw crafting material. It's useless until processed. I'll save this for later, he muttered. Sehun stashed it away. But wait, the boar had dropped one more mysterious treasure. A pillar of light erupted from the boar's excavation, grabbing Sehun's focus. Intrigued, Sehun didn't hesitate and immediately bolted over to investigate. It looked like a whetstone. Item forgotten, hero's tool, grade D. Description: a relic used by a legendary hero to hone his blade. So this was their target. It definitely links back to that legendary sword. I'll test this out later. Sehun headed back. This time the casualties were mounting as stretchers filled the camp. The able-bodied survivors were busy stacking up the massive piles of gorilla corpses. Ignoring the chaos, Sehun focused on a clearing where trees had been felled. He casually threw the hero's tool and sword onto a nearby stump. Additionally, he pulled a Blackstone Forge manual from his inventory, a secret guide for beginners. Blackstone dwarves are legendary for their craftsmanship. He began honing his blade for war. Maintenance before the storm. I never did this before I regressed, Sehun murmured curiously. As the blade scraped, his steady hands caught the eye of an old man nearby. Impressive work. Everyone relies on machines now. True manual smithing is a dying art. Hardly anyone can sharpen with such surgical precision. Hearing this, Sehun paused. Our MC stopped, turning to the stranger. Old man, you know your way around a whetstone. Spent 15 years living by the steel kid, he beamed, snatching Jongson's whetstone with a practiced grip. This stone is top tier. Finding such a rare gem in a godforsaken wasteland like this is a straight-up miracle. Just got lucky. Mind taking a look at my blade, Jongseon proposed. The veteran smith didn't hesitate for a second. Pass it over. He grabbed the sword and immediately dove into his craft, the metal singing against the stone. He admired the hidden potential within the blade. It was old and rusted, but the balance was pure perfection. Luckily, the edge wasn't beyond saving. Watching the old man's precise rhythmic movements, a hidden master in a dump like this, his focus and flow screamed elite craftsmanship to anyone watching. Under those weathered hands, the dull metal transformed, becoming a literal mirror in record time. Few haven't locked in like that in ages. Exhausted but satisfied, he tossed the gleaming weapon back to Jongseon. Give it a spin. See if it fits your hand. Jongseon caught the hilt with a satisfying heavy thud. He slashed the air each swing, whistling with newfound lethality. The difference was night and day compared to before. Suddenly the system flared with new data. The blade had evolved into the Sword of the Forgotten Hero, a rank D masterpiece forged to honor a legend. Thanks to a pro's touch, its former glory had finally returned. Ability 1, Master's Touch, increasing sharpness by 20%. This thing could cut through anything now. Ability 2, Hero's Trace, boosting damage against monsters by 15%. Simple, sleek, and absolutely deadly. It's a work of art, Jongseon whispered. The old man just laughed, feeling refreshed by the hard work. Witnessing that legendary skill, Jongseon pulled out his loot, the boar tusk, and gray wolf leather from earlier. Can you craft something with these? If refined, right, they could become some seriously cracked gear. Right then, a glowing notification pinged in Jongson's vision. A powerful constellation was suddenly paying attention. The warrior with the golden crown had his eyes fixed on the old man, Go Jung Chul. Jongseon froze. That title. It belonged to one of the most legendary figures among the 72 demon lords. It was the 28th demon lord Bareth, a high-ranking entity serving under the 7 deadly sins. Some mistake him for a mindless berserker on a red horse, but he's actually a god-tier master of alchemy. He can turn base metals into gold, boasting smithing skills that rival even the mighty Hephaestus of Olympus. While Hephaestus seeks perfect balance, Bareth craves pure destruction. His weapons are the envy of the gods themselves. Go Jung Chul stared at the floating text, completely baffled. What kind of sorcery is this? Jongseon explained that constellations are divine entities, transcendent beings watching from the very peak of the tower. Why would a god care about a guy like me? Don't sweat it. It's just how things work here. The old man frowned, questioning how he knew so much. Jongseon just gave a knowing, mysterious look. I've got my own divine audience, he replied. Just keep doing your thing and ignore the peanut gallery. They won't bite. In fact, their attention is a massive cheat code if you play it right. Think of it like my fire control, Jongseon added. The old man's eyes sparkled with newfound interest. Then let's make this work, Jongseon said, extending a hand. The smith gripped it with a firm, iron-like squeeze. I'm better at hitting anvils than hitting monsters, he joked. Internally, Jongseon was screaming with pure joy. Securing a master blacksmith was a total game changer. Gear issues. Those were officially a thing of the past. 3 minutes and 21 seconds until the fourth wave. Time was ticking, but Jongseon had work to do. Leaving the materials with Go Jungchul, Jongseon retreated to push his own limits to the absolute max. It was time to rob Mammon's treasury again. He reached into the void, hunting for a new power. He pulled out the 3 natural talents, a skill rooted in the secrets of heaven, earth, and man. It allows one to perceive the entire universe. With his mana circle formed, he needed the final piece. While the heart holds the mana circle, the dantian sits in the lower abdomen waiting to be awakened. He had to guide the energy to flow and live on its own. Jongseon closed his eyes, focusing intensely. He surged his internal energy with practiced ease, feeling the power respond to his every command. Boom! The dantian snapped open. The 3 natural talents skill had successfully worked its ancient magic. With his dantian active, true martial mastery was finally within his grasp. Every strike would now be devastating. Internal energy peak attained. System alert, you've secured a top-tier bonus of 1,000 points. Jungsol exhaled, pausing his grind. The clock is ticking just 60 minutes before the next wave hits. As he whispered to himself, Master Go Cheng-sok arrived fresh from refining the raw materials. Impressive work, you forged that boar fang into a blade faster than I anticipated, Go noted with a grin. Still, the artisan sighed. A top-tier refining agent eluded me. Go ahead, inspect your new gear. Curious, Jongsol pulled up the stats. Item 1. The Grey Wolf Cloak Type Cape. Rank C. Lore forged by a master of the Grey Wolf clan, sovereigns of the Gravel Lands. It channels primal power within the wolf forest. Next, the Fang Dagger rank C+. Origin the hill-digging boar. This beast ruled the heights. Its tusk was whetstone honed into a lethal, high-output killing tool. Satisfied, Go asked. Jongsol gave a firm nod. More than satisfied, this is exactly what I needed. Internal monologue, unreal. Crafting a D+ piece without tools. This man definitely deserves Bareth's watchful eye. Go casually flipped him a sheath. Just some scrap leather I worked into a scabbard, he remarked. Thanks, Jongsol replied. Keen to maximize this veteran's utility for the long haul, he dropped a proposal. Listen, don't throw yourself onto the front lines. You're far more valuable elsewhere. Stick to the camp and oversee our arsenal. Can you handle the equipment management? Happy to help, the old man agreed. That's a game changer for the entire squad's survival. The upcoming assault will be brutal. Over in the center, Yusio was a blur of motion. She barked orders, prepping the defense. It's go time. Everyone assume positions exactly as Jongsol instructed. Lock in. This wave is lethal. Nearby, a survivor watched the chaos with eerie calm. Danger, we've got this handled right. Honestly, I'm rooting for more wild boar meat. Free rations, let's go, someone shouted back. But hearing the banter only deepened Yusio's dread. They're too relaxed, she worried. If Jungsol's sounding the alarm, this won't be a walk in the park. Suddenly, a thunderous boom shattered the air. The source, the unit's absolute powerhouse. Han Chul buried his fist in the earth, carving out a massive crater. Shut it, he growled intensely. The crowd froze instantly. Seizing the moment, Yusio stepped up to deliver the final countdown. 60 seconds left, she glanced at the giant. You're Kang Han Chul, yeah, good looking out. Han Chul gave her the cold shoulder, silent. Then, right on cue, Wave 4 officially breached the zone. Grey wolves, the predators of the forest, emerged. Wolves. Pfft. We've handled these scrubs before, someone scoffed. Easy XP. But as the shadows took form, the cocky grins began to fade into pure terror. Wait, why are they massive? Panic surged. Park Jong-pil, the group's resident coward, turned to Jung-sol. Yo, what the hell? Why are these things the size of trucks? He shrieked. What were you expecting, fluffy sheep? Jung-sol deadpanned. No, I didn't think anything, Jong-pil stammered. Jung-sol scanned their trembling faces. He remembered being that pathetic, once a lifetime ago. Giant monsters used to haunt his dreams, but his gaze shifted. 2 people stood out from the herd, Yusio and Han Chul. Neither showed a hint of fear. They were built different. Enough talk. Let the hunt begin. Jungsol's cold voice sent a jolt through Jong-pil, the designated bait. Problem. Jungsol's gaze pierced him. Trapped, Jong-pil took off, sobbing like a baby. This is literal hell. He sprinted, dragging a literal pack of furry death right toward Jung-sol. I'm gonna die. While he wailed, Jung-seol was already channeling a massive swirling fireball. A warm welcome for the wolves. Isn't this a bit overkill? He mused. He unleashed the blast. Jong-pil nearly jumped out of his skin. Dude, a little heads up next time. Zero cares given. Caught in the inferno, the wolves shrieked as the flames turned them into ash. Wolf meat BBQ was served. Watching the carnage, the gluttonous demon Beelzebub began to salivate. The hungry prince literally grabbed his chopsticks, eyes glued to the delicious plate below. One lone wolf evaded the blast, shadows clinging to its fur. Jung-sol didn't blink, he just drew his blade. Eager to test drive his lethal new acquisition, Jong-sun unsheathed the legendary Bloodwolf sword style. Plucked from the depths of a hidden treasure vault, this technique was forged by Wudong's legendary master, Zhao Kong. A master who abandoned humanity to duel wild beasts, its secrets were now Zhang Sun's to command. Tightening his grip, he vanished, streaking forward like a lethal bolt. With a single devastating form, Bloodwolf's Claw. The gray wolf was shredded instantly. With my Dantian finally awakened, this is child's play. This style is on a whole different level now, Zhang Sun realized. In that same heartbeat, he flooded his muscles with raw internal energy. Nearby, the pack watched their comrade get absolutely demolished. Howling in a bloodthirsty frenzy, the pack swarmed him like a literal carpet of teeth and fur. But Zhang Sun didn't even blink. He stood immovable, channeling massive energy into the style's opening strike. Bloodwolf's fang charged with overwhelming power, the air began to scream. Then the massacre began. As the wolves lunged into the kill zone, a literal storm of sword aura erupted from his blade. The aura shredded the beasts in a blur of steel. They were too slow to even register their deaths. Not a single drop touched his cloak before the predators became mere roadkill. It was a total bloodbath. Watching the carnage, Zhang Pil trembled. "Bro, are you even human anymore? Don't be a clown," Zhang Sun snapped. Shaking off the comment, he triggered his glutton's privilege. It was time to feast and level up. Nutrients absorbed. Strength +1. Agility +3. The constellation Hungry Prince grinned wide. The entity was famished. Meanwhile, Zhang Pil pointed toward the chaos. "Hey, can I go help them out?" He motioned to the survivors, barely holding back the starving wolves. One look told Zhang Sun they were cooked. Things were looking grim. Most were struggling to survive, especially Han Chol, who was moving like he was lagging. He was completely outclassed by the wolves' speed. But Yuseoa, she was absolutely popping off in the fray. Her sheer skill caught the eye of a cosmic heavyweight. The constellation He Who Wears the Crown descended. The entity observed her blade work with fascination. This was Baal, the apex of the 72 demon lords. Not quite a god, but a master swordmaster, commanding 66 legions of hell. A true monster of war. It made sense why he was scouting her. Zhang Sun stroked his chin, realizing Baal was testing her limit. He was measuring her worth. Her strikes were a blur, impossibly fast. Despite having only one blade, it felt like a dozen swords were striking at once. Baal was seeing if she deserved his unholy blessing. Zhang Sun's gaze darkened. As the demon lord's aura enveloped her, Yuseoa's raw power began to explode. Her stats went through the roof. Realizing the tide had turned, the others prepped for a massive counterstrike. "Now is our chance. Wipe them out," they roared. Meanwhile, Baal watched her every move with predatory focus. The demon lord was impressed. He Who Wears the Crown tilted its head, clearly amused by the slaughter. "Looks like the big guy likes what he sees," Zhang Sun mused, with Yuseoa leading the charge. The fourth wave was pulverized in minutes. Notification: you have successfully cleared the fourth attack. Wave 4 complete. All participants receive 100 bonus points. Calculating the contribution rankings for this bloodbath. First, Zhang Sun, 4,920 points. Second, Yuseoa, 900. Third, Kang Han Cheol, 580. As the screen flickered, Yuseoa's legs finally gave out. She collapsed, but Zhang Sun was already there. He caught her before she hit the dirt. "Not bad kid," he whispered, but the aftermath was grim. Wounded survivors lay everywhere, torn apart by the wolves. "Is anyone here a medic?" a voice screamed. A green-haired girl looked around desperately. One guy stepped up, but his face was pale with helplessness. He just shook his head. Without his surgical kit, he was useless. Suddenly, every eye in the group shifted. They glared at Zhang Sun with pure resentment. Why was the strongest among them just standing there like a statue? Feeling the heat of their gaze, Zhang Sun began to walk forward. The crowd tensed up immediately. "What now? You just watched us die." Ignoring the salt, Zhang Sun shoved a guy aside. He accessed his treasure of greed, activating a white tower healing spell. A low-tier but effective miracle. It was designed to halt hemorrhaging and kill the pain instantly. The crowd watched in stunned silence as a shimmering blue aura enveloped the gashes. The torn flesh began to knit back together right before their eyes. "Look, his injuries are vanishing," gasps the man in blue. The azure-haired girl watches in awe. She pleads, "Can you assist over here? My healing is hitting its limit." Zhang Xiao nods calmly. "Stay back. I will handle the ones in critical condition." After stabilizing the dying, Zhang Xiao retreats to a tree. This should suffice for now. Results are perfect. 0 casualties and the wounded are already bouncing back. Suddenly, his peace is shattered. The massive Han Chol looms over like a mountain. "Problem?" Zhang Xiol asks coldly. Han Cheol's answer is simple: "Fight me." A smirk plays on Zhang Xiol's lips. Typical Han Cheol. To truly reach him, I must crush his pride first. "Fine," Zhang Sol agrees. "Bring your weapons and magic." His tone is icy. Against someone like this, he doesn't need his full power. "Try landing a hit on me barehanded first," he says, cracking his knuckles. Han Chol bristles at the disrespect. Teeth gritted, he lunges with explosive force. A massive fist whistles toward Zhang Xiol's face, but he shifts like a shadow. He's heavy-handed, sure, but his defense is nothing but gaping holes. Zhang Xiol counters with a sharp kick, yet Han Qiol stands firm. Impressive durability. Han Qiol unleashes a relentless barrage of strikes, forcing Zhang Xiol back. After a quick trade, Zhang Xiol realizes his current stats aren't enough for raw brawling. Time for a tactical change. He summons the Tai Chi Quan skill book. This legendary martial art focuses on flow, standing alongside greats like Shaolin Kung Fu. Once the skill activates, Zhang Xiol's aura shifts as he enters a fluid stance. Oblivious to the change, Han Qiol swings another heavy haymaker with all his might. But this time, Zhang Xiol doesn't run. He calmly catches the devastating fist. With a subtle tilt, he redirects the momentum before shoving forward with both palms. The giant is sent reeling, smashing into a tree with bone-rattling impact. Yet his tank-like constitution is insane. Even after that, he barely has a scratch. "I'm not done," he bellows, charging back in like a frenzied berserker. Pure strength favors Han Qiol, but Tai Chi isn't about matching force with force. Mastering energy is key. Relying on raw power against this style ensures self-destruction. As Han Qiol closes the gap, Zhang Xiol blurs past with lightning-fast footwork. He connects a single palm strike, hurling the big man back once more. The impact snaps the massive tree in half. Han Qiol sighs in defeat. "You win." Zhang Xiol heals him. "Relax. You are already strong. You just need refinement. From now on, you train with me twice a day," he says, helping him up. "Deal," Han Qiol grunts, grasping Zhang Xiol's hand as he hauls himself up. Unbeknownst to them, their clash attracts the gaze of a powerful constellation. The old man riding a crocodile is watching Han Qiol. Zhang Xiol recognizes the name. Agarus, the second-ranked demon king. Han Qiol finally caught a big fish. Zhang Xiol smiles for his friend. Suddenly, the fifth wave erupts, but the vibe shifted. After surviving 4 brutal rounds, the survivors no longer look like prey. Zhang Xiol grins at the transformation. Wolves, boars, monkeys, they've conquered them all. So what is next on the menu, he wonders, as the horizon trembles. Massive gray boars emerge, charging toward the group like living armored tanks. "Ready your steel. Hold the line," Jisiok bellows, rallying the troops for battle. Even the cowardly Park Jung-ho found his spine. "Sir, I am ready. Order me." Zhang Xiol takes one look at him and scoffs. "Just sit this one out." The guy was left utterly stunned. Ignoring the shock on his face, Zhang Xion pivoted his focus back to the unfolding carnage. He realized he'd been playing it safe for far too long, holding back against these weaklings. "I was nerfing myself to stay on their level, but those days are officially over. Besides, it's time these guys grinded for their own contribution points." Zhang Xion's gaze shifted toward Han Qiol, who was using pure, unadulterated muscle to tank a charging gray boar. The man gripped its tusks with a vice-like hold, hoisted the massive beast skyward, and slammed it into the dirt with bone-shattering force. Wait, is that Tai Chi? His pact with Agarus must be complete. His stats have skyrocketed. At this rate, I can finally stop babysitting. Zhang Xian's mutterings made Park Jung-po jump. "Wait, what? Wherever you're heading, I'm your shadow," Jung-po pleaded, rubbing his hands together like a total sycophant. But Zhang Xion shut him down instantly. "No dice. I'm scaling that peak over there." Jung-po's eyes followed Zhang Xian's finger to the horizon. It wasn't just a mountain. It was a vertical stone pillar reaching for the clouds. One look was enough to know this climb was a suicide mission. One slip meant becoming a permanent part of the landscape. Jung-po's bravado vanished instantly. On second thought, "I'll just hold down the fort here. Stay safe." With a calm stride, Zhang Xion headed for the rocky monolith. Suddenly, a pack of brown monkeys blocked his path. These mobs were literal fodder. Zhang Xion carved through them like a hot knife through butter, using them as living punching bags. His proficiency bars were moving. The internal energy from his Bloodwolf sword style began to surge. Bloodwolf's fang reached a new level of lethality. Meanwhile, the starving prince Constellation began complaining that a simple barbecue wouldn't cut it. "Chill out, I promise you a legendary feast." Zhang Xion nodded, activating his gluttony skill to appease the bottomless hunger of his demonic patron. Dealing with this constellation was like raising a high-maintenance starving pet. He sent a reassuring thought. "Don't worry, the prize at the summit is tastier than anything you've ever devoured." Zhang Xion paused, staring up at the daunting rock face. In his previous life, exploring this terrain would have been a death sentence, but he was a different man now. He pulled a hidden ace from his treasury, the essence of the Balaton Cliff Golden Monkey, the ultimate apex predator of these vertical heights. As the power fused with his soul, Zhang Xion felt his very biology adapt to the mountain. Easy mode activated, he smirked. Without another word, he began his vertical assault on the cliff. Every grip felt natural, and he could read the shifting winds like a pro. Primal monkey instincts were screaming through his veins. Without this buff, he'd have been a stain on the rocks long ago. The starving prince chimed in again, wondering what kind of snacks could possibly exist in such a desolate place. Back to our protagonist, he whispered to the wind. The wait is finally over. Suddenly he spotted 3 brown monkeys perched precariously on a branch just above him. Their eyes were bulging out of their heads. They looked absolutely terrified. How could they have expected a human to survive the climb to their domain? Zhang Xian gave them a dark smile. The monkeys quickly snapped out of their shock and began frantically hurling stones at him. Zhang Xian didn't flinch. He put explosive power into his arms and launched himself upward like a rocket. Before gravity could pull him back down, he whipped out a blade and buried it deep into the stone. Gotta keep moving, he thought, catching sight of a dark opening midway up the cliffside. That cave. It's a hidden path for the monkeys. Jackpot. Have I finally tracked down the hidden fragment? He summoned his fire magic, a lethal flame flickering to life in his palm. Sensing his murderous intent, the monkeys below turned pale with fear. A split second later, a massive explosion rocked the cliff face, and charred monkey corpses rained down like soot. Zhang Xian didn't look back as he vaulted into the cave. Just as he suspected, this was a secret tunnel leading straight to the mountain's peak. He reached the summit effortlessly, only to be met by a discount Sun Wukong. The white monkey let out a deafening roar. It was a weak attempt at intimidation. So you're the big boss of this playground. A mere monkey. Thank God you're not the real great sage. You'd never measure up anyway. A constellation rivaling the heavens themselves. This primate's form is clearly a cheap imitation of the great sage Sun Wukong. Finally, a worthy opponent, Zhang Xian, smirked effortlessly, parrying a crushing blow from the imposter's staff. The showdown between the pretender and Zhang Xian officially ignited. Leveraging its superior agility, the snowy beast unleashed a flurry of strikes from every angle, forcing our hero into a desperate defensive dance. Its mechanics are cracked for a tutorial boss. If I just play passive and soak up damage, I'm toast, Zhang Xian realized. Channeling power into his quads, he launched himself backward to reset. Seeking a momentary breather, he knew he had to go on the offensive to avoid a beatdown. Sharpening his focus, he lunged into the pocket, weaving through a rain of lethal staff thrusts. Spotting a frame-perfect opening, Zhang Xian snatched the boss's weapon mid-air. He then delivered a brutal Spartan kick, right to the gut, blasting the fake backward while disarming it. Damn, this thing is surprisingly heavy, he muttered, feeling the sheer density of the polearm. Seeing its prize stolen, the boss went absolutely ballistic, screeching in fury. What's the matter? Missing your favorite toy? Zhang Xian taunted with a cocky grin. Accessing the treasury of greed, he activated the dog-beating staff technique. This legendary beggar sect art was perfected to humble rabid beasts and unruly vagrants alike. Zhang Xian immediately shifted into a lethal combat stance, matching the secret technique and leaving the monkey completely baffled. Time began to fly by. Weaponless and outclassed by Zhang Xian's new skill, it wasn't long before he cracked the monkey's skull wide open. The vermin of Stone Monkey Mountain has been purged. You have reached a new level. Personal contribution surges by 1,000 points. You've obtained the rare Stone Mountain Chestnut. I should probably hand this over to Old Man Go later. It's bound to be useful, he mused. Then, he summoned his glutton's privilege to satisfy that bottomless hunger. My bad for making you wait. The fanged serpent lunged, tearing into the monkey's remains with savage hunger. Cliff-climbing monkey successfully absorbed. Nutrient gain boosted agility and intelligence by 5 points each. Zhang Xian stared. Witnessing his stats skyrocket instantly, he was floored. A 10-point jump in one go. The power of greed is truly broken. This devouring ability is insane. I'm going to be an unstoppable tank. Glancing at the nearby precipice, he shook his head. Actually, never mind that. Let's see what loot this monkey was gatekeeping. He began heaving aside a massive stone slab, uncovering a hidden cavern within. Suddenly, a system alert chimed, confirming the discovery for Zhang Xian. Entering the national dungeon, the Forgotten Hero. No way. A hidden dungeon in Chapter 1 of the tutorial. This means a massive experience farm, compared to grinding trash mobs. Plus, the rewards for the first clear will be absolutely astronomical. The loot multipliers will be insane. I'm already here, so why stop now? With zero hesitation, Zhang Xian dove into the abyss. Playing it safe, he summoned an item called the Night Owl's Eye. Taken from an apex predator, these eyes harvest every stray photon, even in pitch-black darkness, granting perfect night vision. Once equipped, the cavern's secrets were laid bare before him. It's been a steady descent since the entrance. Since this path cuts deep into the mountain, I must be approaching the base. He navigated the gloom until he hit a massive chamber, bristling with ancient swords driven into the earth. The surrounding walls were scarred with violent, terrifying blade marks. This place screams death trap. This is definitely a high-level training ground, he noted, spotting a peculiar keyhole. This has to be the quest trigger. Acting on instinct, he drew the Forgotten Hero's sword and jammed it firmly into the slot. The moment steel met stone, the blade erupted in a blinding radiance. You have qualified to face the Forgotten Hero. The system message flashed. Instantly, our protagonist felt a chilling presence manifest right behind him. It was the legend himself. He watched the hero casually pull a blade from the floor, ready to school Jong Seon. Our hero was caught completely off guard. He wasn't even ready. Damn it, is the boss fight starting already? Jong Seon cursed under his breath. But the difficulty wasn't the issue. Because in that split second, Jong Seon realized his blade was jammed tight. Suddenly, the system interface flickered to life with urgent alerts. The Forgotten Heroes trial had officially commenced. Rule number 1, only the shattered steel scattered here is permitted. Heavy mana began suffocating his magic. The moment his fingers closed around a fractured hilt, the legendary phantom would awaken. Jong Seon's gaze sharpened his playful demeanor, vanishing instantly. No gear, no spells, talk about a handicap. With a grimace, he snatched up a jagged, rusted blade. As his grip tightened, the hero blurred into motion, striking with the speed of a lethal projectile. A heavy strike came crashing down, forcing Jong Seon into a desperate two-handed guard just to survive. Surprised by the block, the hero's eyes glinted with intrigue. Centuries have passed since someone actually stood their ground. Bracing himself, Jong Seon shoved the phantom back. Wait, so I'm not the first one to wander in here? The hero nodded solemnly, recalling a distant memory. There was one. An eternity ago. Jong Seon smirked. And since you're still standing, they obviously failed. In an instant, their blades collided once more. They traded blows at supersonic speeds, but Jong Seon was struggling with his brittle, failing weapon. The constant shock proved too much. His blade disintegrated into a cloud of useless metal shards. Thinking fast, he discarded the hilt and lunged for another rusted scrap of steel. Let's be real, these weapons were absolute trash, eroded by ages of decay and dampness. His new blades snapped like a twig upon contact. Fortunately, the hero pulled back, choosing to speak instead of kill. Impressive reflexes, the hero remarked, but your physical vessel is lagging behind your combat instincts. Jong Seon froze. This guy had analyzed his entire physiological limit in just a few heartbeats. Throwing the useless handle away, he groaned. Seriously, who uses high-level sword chi in a tutorial level? Is this even beatable? He barked. The hero paused, shocked. You actually recognize the essence of sword chi. The mystery of why everyone else died here was finally solved. This wasn't a trial, it was a slaughterhouse. First you have to find this hidden hellhole, and then you're expected to counter legendary energy. It seemed physically impossible. But the ancient warrior didn't care about his excuses for even a second. His voice was like cold steel. Master this, or let this chamber become your eternal tomb. He lunged again, a blur of lethal intent. The intensity ramped up as his strikes became truly murderous. The phantom's blade danced toward his throat, forcing a frantic evasion. How long will you play this cowardly game of tag? I am no mindless beast, he hissed. My patterns evolve. You cannot hide forever. Jong Seon's mind raced. He was right, this wasn't some basic mob with a predictable AI loop. You can't just memorize a boss phase here. If he stayed on the defensive, his luck was bound to run out. Death was closing in. Dodging was futile, and blocking with these toothpicks was suicide. He was completely cornered. Desperate times called for shady measures. He reached out to Mammon, snagging a forbidden technique from the vault. He manifested the legendary Tai Chi sword, the Wudong sect's ultimate answer to brute force and aggression. It was the art of soft conquering hard. Just as he synchronized his breathing, the hero's blade whistled toward his chest. Jong Seon moved like flowing water, parrying the strike with a rhythmic circular motion that defied physics. Miraculously, his brittle blade remained intact. The hero's eyes widened in genuine shock at the impossible feat. Impressive, the warrior grunted, but not enough. With a violent twist, he sent Jong Seon's sword flying into the darkness. Yet in his arrogance, the hero left his flank exposed. This was the one opening Jong Seon had been hunting for. Drawing a hidden blade in a flash, he unleashed the devastating third form of the Bloodwolf style. The Bloodwolf strike erupted with primal fury, disarming the legendary hero in a single savage motion. Incredible. You read my movements like an open book. The hero stared at his empty hands, stunned. Such mastery requires decades of war. Yet your soul shows no trace of formal training. Who are you? Jong Seon chuckled internally. Bro, I literally just downloaded this skill from a loot box 5 seconds ago. To anyone else, he looked like a hidden master smurfing in a low-level zone. The ultimate flex. Keeping his secrets to himself, he just shrugged. So, did I pass this little test or what? The hero gave a respectful nod. You disarmed a legend. Consider this trial conquered, young wolf. From this moment on, no soul shall ever strip that blade from your grasp again. The words barely left his lips before the ancient hero's blade, wedged deep within the lock, ignited with a blinding radiance. It instantly seized Jong Seok's attention. This was the legendary power the nameless warrior had guarded through the eons. This was the ultimate prize of the trial. Without hesitation, Jong Seok reached out with both hands, clutching the hilt with a firm grip. But the instant his skin met steel, a violent torrent of raw energy flooded his veins. The hero's voice echoed from the shadows. Steady yourself, the blade is judging its new master. At those words, Jong-suk's tension vanished. An S-rank weapon for sure. Fine by me, he thought. I'm an expert at enduring pain. In my previous life, I conquered the 92nd floor, despite having zero natural talent. He tightened his hold, bracing against the overwhelming force threatening to tear his body apart, and gave one final, desperate heave. As the blade slid free, its very essence began to shift and transform. So, this is its genuine form, he gasped. By his side, the extraction of the blade signaled the end of an era. The hero's duty was finally fulfilled. You're still unrefined, the spirit noted, but greatness will find you in time. I look forward to the legend you'll carve. With those final words, his spectral form began to dissolve into the ether, vanishing just as mysteriously as he'd arrived. Suddenly, the system interface flared to life. Hidden dungeon trial of the nameless hero cleared. Level up. You have accomplished a feat that will be etched into history. Contribution points increased by 20,000. You have obtained the legendary relic of the fallen warrior. The mythic blade Durandal, high above the constellation Corvus, bolted upright in shock. Meanwhile, the sixth wave's carnage had erupted elsewhere, where Juso-Ah was locked in a life-or-death struggle against those same vicious stone monkeys Jong-suk had previously crushed. She sliced through a beast and thrust her blade forward, screaming, "Keep the line, don't let the formation break. The momentum is ours, stay focused." Near her, the mountain of a man Han Chul swung with devastating power, unleashing a relentless storm of fists that pulverized every monster in his path single-handedly. He was a one-man army, still no sign of Jong-suk-so. "Ah," muttered anxiously, "I hope he's not in over his head." Han Chul didn't answer immediately. He remained eerily quiet, lost in his own grim calculations. "I'm done waiting," she snapped. "I'm going after him the second this wave ends. You're backing me up, right?" "Don't bother," Han Chul replied flatly. "But without him, we're—" He cut her off before she could finish. "That man doesn't need our pity. He's likely off pulling off some insane stunt we can't even fathom. So our only job is to survive and level up until his return." While speaking, he glanced at the holographic leaderboard. Rank 1, Jong-suk, 28,660 points. Rank 2, Ju-seo-ah, 1,680 points. Third, Han Chul, 1,600. Witnessing that god-tier point gap, the tension finally left Seo-ah's face. "Fine," she whispered. Meanwhile, deep in the shadows, Jong-suk stirred his internal clock, completely broken. "Did I seriously black out the moment I pulled it? Crap. My mana and internal reserves are bone dry. I'm dying to see these stats. But I have to fix my Dantian first." He immediately dropped into a deep meditative trance to cycle his exhausted energy. However, only seconds into his focus, a strange sensation hit him. His recovery was off the charts, impossibly fast. His eyes snapped open. Wait, what is this insane flow? He spun around to find a colossal pillar of pure celestial energy erupting toward the heavens right behind him. Looks like the blade wasn't the only jackpot in this dungeon. Grinning, he prepared to siphon the surging power. He activated the dark mana circle he'd looted from the treasury. This was the forbidden cultivation art of the Dark Tower, a secret reserved only for their elite disciples. Combined with the Supreme Core Break technique, a legendary manual whispered through generations of the demonic sect. He was ready. "I'm going to suck this energy source bone dry," Jong-suk muttered with predatory focus. His body became a void, a human vacuum devouring every scrap of energy until the system flared. System Wave 6, conquered success. Wave 7 cleared, Wave 8 annihilated. All participants receive bonus rewards. Awarding 200 points, the rapid-fire notifications sent a jolt of surprise through him. How long was I out? It's been 36 hours. Glad to see they didn't fold without me. The tutorial's ultimate trial looms the 10th wave. Prepare for a massive monster-level spike. Time to prove my worth at the campsite. While processing this, Jong-sul's skills evolved after devouring the dungeon's endless energy. The Supreme Core Break technique forged half an energy pearl in your Dantian. Every strike now boasts lethal precision and power. The Dark Tower's secrets birthed a second mana circle. Second circle magic is finally online. My mana is surging, Jong-sul realized. Feeling the raw power, he grinned. Evolving this fast in just 2 days is insane. But the real prize, the sealed stone-splitting sword Durandal. Rank B. A mythic blade forged for legends. Its true potential remains locked, awaiting a master worthy of its steel. Jong-sul stared at the stats in disbelief. Finding this in a tutorial is madness. Even before I regressed, this blade was a ghost story. Jong-sul gave it a test swing, and a violent gale erupted. Even sealed, it's a monster. The remaining shackles are likely due to my weak stats, he muttered. Suddenly, a system alert flashed. 24 minutes until the 9th wave hits, Jong-sul snapped into action and bolted toward the camp. Damn, no time to waste. Meanwhile, Juseo's squad is in hell. Monkeys everywhere, hold the line, the brown-haired girl screamed. Too many of them, the shield-bearer grunted. What about the wounded? Damn it all. No time for the fallen, someone barked. Elsewhere, leader Hu So-young slashed through the chaos shielding her team, but her blade lacked its usual bite. The crowned spider constellation critiqued her form. Your movements lack finesse, it hissed. Not the time she snapped. Since the 7th wave, the difficulty had spiked, and the casualties were mounting. Can we actually survive this? Then disaster struck. A red monkey lunged at her blind spot, sensing the incoming strike. Seo-young pivoted to parry, but her hands were shaking uncontrollably. Her grip failed. Seeing her defenseless, the tank Han Chiol slammed his palms into the earth, erupting the ground beneath the beasts. Monkey's sword, the Gariel riding elder constellation watched the carnage with a smirk. The crowned spider bared its fangs, warning the old man to back off. Thanks, Juseo, she nodded. Just breathe, Han Chiol advised. But the wounded, she stammered. If you break, we all die, he reminded her. She looked at him. Even the tank was bleeding out. Without Jong-sul, they were finished. Suddenly, Park Jong-pil's blood-curdling scream echoed nearby, grabbing their attention. We're done for. Where are you, Jong-sul? He wailed, clutching bananas while a horde of monkeys snapped at his heels. Blinded by panic, Jong-pil caught a rock and ate dirt. The pack closed in, ready for a feast. Jong-pil's life flashed before his eyes. He sobbed for his parents, but death wasn't calling his name today. At the final second, a jagged bolt of lightning tore through the sky, frying the monkeys where they stood. Juseo and Han Chiol watched in shock as constellation alerts flooded their screens. The crowned spider and the Gariel riding elder both bowed before the demon god. Over here, Jong-sul had returned. His presence alone made Jong-pil weep with relief. Bro, he cried. Meanwhile, Jong-sul unleashed a storm of lightning, finally breathing a sigh of relief. Things are deadlier than I anticipated. Ju-se-ho and Han Cheol held firm, but what is that guy even doing? He snagged a constellation's gaze. The pillager cackles, pointing a finger directly at player Park Jong-pil. The background players noticed Jong-seol's return. That mana, could it be? Is he the freaking blood wolf? Jong-seol dazed out, so Park Jong-pil cleared his throat and stepped up to spill the tea. So you vibe with the nickname I picked. The scent of blood drifting every time you slash that blade. Plus that wolfish cloak. It's a total vibe, right? He grinned, clueless that Jong-seol wanted to end him. He just wanted to tackle him and throw hands. A player's alias carries as much weight as their name, and it's used way more often. Letting a clown choose it. No way. I'll make sure. I'm the one who gives you a special title, Jong-seol growled. For real, I'd be so honored. Park Jong-pil chirped with a grin. With Jong-seol back, they smashed through the 9th wave successfully. 9th wave cleared. Everyone gets 200 points. First place, Jong-seol, 41,660 points. Second, Ju-seol, 4,820 points. Third, Han Cheol, 4,760. Once the dust settled, Ju-seol, rushed over. Jong-seol, where the heck have you been all this time? You were gone for ages. Instead of answering, Jong-seol just glanced over at the rest of the squad. Explanations later. Right now, focus on securing the camp. The female leader nodded, getting the message instantly. Total chaos still reigned, so she sprinted off to manage it, but threw a final warning his way. You owe me a full report later, Ju-seol. Is really stepping up as camp leader, Jong-seol noted. Nearby, the big guy muttered, she's gotten stronger. Meet me at the shattered ancient tree. He vanished instantly. The request sparked a realization for our hero. The tree, is he looking to spar? It's been a minute since our last duel. Jong-seol's voice turned icy. Park Jong-pil, give me the sitrep. The decoy kid waved his hands humbly and saluted. Yes, sir, right after you headed for Rocky Mountain. Wave 6 ended smoothly, but once the 7th hit, well, things got complicated. Jong-seol stared, shocked by Jong-pil's report. It sounded like a perfectly rehearsed script. This dude actually has talent. Pre-regression, he was just a loser clinging to Hanchol and causing drama. But his briefing skills are top tier. I guess he's actually worth the attention of the 6th-ranked demon, Balfour. Meanwhile, Jong-pil kept yapping, totally oblivious to the internal monologue happening in front of him. During the break, the twins built a wooden wall. The twins, Jong-seol's brow furrowed as memories surfaced. We cut to the twins. Right then, the two sisters were deep in a heated discussion. This spot is still weak. I told you we needed more reinforcement, the girl in pink barked. The blue-clad sister snapped back. If we used your plan, the wave would have hit before we finished. Their bickering was cut short when Park Jong-pil showed up with Jong-seol in tow. Hanaji Handewol, what's the holdup? The boss is back, and you haven't even greeted him. Look here, recognition flashed in Jong-seol's eyes. These twins, ever since the 3rd wave, they've actually been pretty impressive. They were absolute beasts on the front line against the monsters. Being twins makes them even more iconic. Oh look, it's Mr. Bloodwolf, they cheered. Hearing that title made Jong-seol's face cloud over. Bloodwolf. I still despise that cringe nickname. That brat and his stupid naming sense, Jong-seol hissed internally. His irritation left Jong-pil baffled. What did I even do? Shaking it off, Jong-seol regained his cool. You two worked hard. Did you spend points on those tools? Yeah, Ju Seol. Gave the order. It might look sketchy, but it's lethal against red wolves. They bragged with smiles, and Jung Seol had to respect it. It should hold for the next wave too. Hearing his validation, the twins' anxiety flared back up. But we're out of timber. There's no way the two of us can finish before the next onslaught. Jung Seol was just being supportive. In his head, he knew the grim truth. A wooden fence won't do squat against wave 10. But the reason I'm scouting you two, that barricade is useless for what's coming next. However, your potential, that's what I'm actually after. Celestial eyes are fixed on them. The Blackbird constellation perched ominously upon a razor-sharp spear. This entity observes Han Agi, while the giant vulture constellation tracks every move of Han Dal. Ranking 38 and 39, the demons, Halphus and Malthus command the powers of construction